here we are, we're in Manchester. Time to go through the newspapers now with two locals. The journalist Angela Epstein and the Northwest correspondent for the Daily Express, Chris Riches. Very nice to see you both.
Welcome
Good
morning.
We're very happy to be here. Sing us the praises, Chris, of Manchester. Why is it so vibrant? Why is it all happening here?
Well, we talk about levelling up, and that's something the government is a watchword of theirs at the moment. I feel that Manchester is a booming city. Birmingham claims to be the second city. I think Manchester is becoming the second city of this country. I think we've obviously got arts here, we've got industry, we've got science here now. Manchester University with their amazing science departments they've got there, producing a lot. I think there's a lot of investment in this city, and apart from the weather, as you can probably see behind you, I think it's a city to be. We won't talk about Manchester United.
Mention the one thing I think that really, since the Industrial Revolution, has put Manchester on the map, and that is football.
I didn't want to mention Manchester United, Eamonn. But,
yeah, but there's two teams. There's two teams, and but the thing is, you can't get a hotel room in this city come match day, and you know, it's done an awful lot to contribute to the status that they have.
Well, you look at where Manchester City are now. Yeah. Before they were there, and before they had the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, the area, there was nothing much there. Yeah. The development that Manchester City have put into that area is fantastic. And you have to credit them for that. They've obviously got the training ground. They've got the women's team have their own stadium.
There's this whole community aspect that people don't appreciate with both City and United, it has to be said.
And I suppose where you have a burgeoning city, growing population, you also have a great source of news. There's no shortage of news in the Northwest.
I don't think there's ever been a shortage of news. It's been a fabulous news town, Manchester. You know, Chris would know as well, being a newspaper man here. In the old days, all the great newspapers had regional offices here for that very reason. The other thing that I would just say about Manchester very quickly is it's so compact. So just as an example, I mean, it depends where you live within the 360-degree circumference of the city centre, but the commuting is really good here. You know, my cab failed to show and I was here in 8 minutes. You can't do that in that London, you know.
I tell you what, let's move, Eamonn. I'm sold. I'm sold.
I was sold initially when I lived near the airport and the train lines and the motorways.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, the communication to get to anywhere else in the country is really very, very good.
It could take you about an hour to travel maybe 2 miles in London.
Yes, yeah. And also sort of working in London sometimes, and I've got my 2 older kids live there. But the other thing I would say, and it's true of a lot of great regional cities, I think overall is there's an atmosphere of conviviality and community here. People say, I've walked down the street and my pen's not working, I've got somebody on the phone from work, and I'll stop somebody and say, can I borrow your pen? I remember having a London commissioning editor on the phone saying, I can't believe you just stopped and asked somebody to borrow their pen.
I can't believe that they ask that. That's always mystified me. I have a son who, you know, we live in Surrey, and he's moved to Manchester. To live, and it is completely different. And now
he's picked up a Manchester accent.
He's got a Manc accent on top of everything, you know. So it's all very good.
Does he say things like "at the minute"?
It's like having Liam Gallagher living in your house. That's what it's like. Guys, let's get into the newspapers now. And Angela, you're going to start with this whole Ukrainian invasion by Russia. So for all the newspapers, where it's like genocide jumping out.
Yeah, I think there's been a significant gear change here now. I mean, this was a conflict, this was a war, this was something that the Ukrainians didn't want, the invasion of sovereign territory. We know all those things. But now we're moving into very dark territory, because genocide, by definition, is the deliberate annihilation of a group of people. And we're talking about civilians now. In war, there is always a cost to human life, regrettable as it is, and it's horrible. But we expect when soldiers fight soldiers, however unjust the cause. But innocent civilians, when they're so-called humanitarian corridors, when they are just there as sitting ducks, and there is a deliberate, and some of the, you know, I don't want to go into the details here, but some of the stories that are coming out are so, we thought we'd park this.
Some of the stories are so bad. Isabel and I had a talk yesterday about a story in the Sunday Times, and it was just so horrific. It's wrong that we don't cover it, but at the time of the day and the graphicness of what's involved in it, they sort of win, don't they?
Yeah, because you don't want... It's not appetising discussion, but, I mean, we were talking specifically about the issue of women being raped, and that we're now getting these first-hand reports. We saw awful pictures of women attempting to burn their bodies and not having time to cover their tracks. The difference, I suppose, we've known, haven't we, that there have been war crimes going on, but now reporters are getting into these demilitarised towns and seeing it. We've got independent verification, and those war crimes investigators can also get in there. And Chris Riches, that's the take that your paper is looking at this morning, is that, you know, the West saying Putin's going to pay for this.
I mean, the images are absolutely shocking, and we've been obviously seeing some of them on television, and they've been having to blur them out. They're that graphic. Boris Johnson, the front page of our paper, Boris Johnson's obviously saying these are despicable acts and something has to be done. But as Angela says, I mean, we thought we were beyond this sort of...
this is this
sort of... Yeah, it's horrific, this sort of thing. And the idea that people are being like, their bodies are like tied up and just discarded there and shot. These are executions.
Yeah, mass graves.
Let me just say, there's the front page of the Express, and this is Boris Johnson's words. Putin will pay for despicable war crimes. How will he pay? Because I don't believe he'll pay. I don't believe anybody will hold him to account. I believe he'll live in Russia or wherever. I just don't know what happens next.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because Russia aren't signed up to the International Criminal Court. So can anyone walk into Russia and grab Vladimir Putin and drag him out to The Hague?
They did it with Eichmann in 1963. The Israelis did it when he was signed. And I think the difficulty is I don't believe in competitive suffering, but there is a kind of tension here between, as you rightly say, the world needs to know, and yet the images are graphic. And there was the very famous, it's different but the same, when Richard Dimbleby went to Belsen at the end of the war, the BBC did not want him to broadcast what he saw, because, I mean, it was on an unrecognisable scale. You had 30,000 corpses piled up high, and the Holocaust is a difficult subject to put in the context of this. But in terms broadly about news coverage, it's interesting that even the news organisation said we can't, and he said, you don't broadcast it, I'm resigning, because the world has to know. And this is the difficulty that we have with this. The world has to know what's going on, as much as we find it hard to show viewers.
And, you know, the last sort of paper that we're going to look at on this is The Guardian, talking about, you know, what's been uncovered in Bucha. But the fear is that this is just a few of the towns that we're seeing that are being demilitarised. Who knows what we'll find as and when we're able to, and I say we, the Ukrainians are able to liberate these other occupied towns.
Precisely. As the Ukrainians go in, they're going to uncover, we know they're going to uncover more of this. I mean, whoever thought you'd have a situation where you've got a former heavyweight boxer in Vladimir Klitschko doing a selfie with bodies in the background? It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so tragic.
And I find it hard because in the last few years I travelled to Odessa, I travelled to Kyiv, I was in Moscow, and I'd seen all these places close hand. And you think, it would be like imagining Manchester now with missiles raining down on street to street fighting and whatever. Let's go to the Daily Mail. This is front page of the Daily Mail about this MP, David Warburton. Chris, you're going to take a view on this one.
Yeah. So, front page of the Daily Mail there. So, David Warburton obviously is exposed in Sunday newspapers that allegations from 3 women have made allegations against him. There's also an allegation of cocaine taking and also of a loan, £100,000 loan from a Russian businessman, which has been paid back. So this begs the question, I think, we talk about parliamentary standards. You know, here we have the politician here who has now apparently been placed into a psychiatric hospital. His wife is speaking. She says she stands by him. But it's just another stain, I think, or an alleged stain on the Conservative Party.
And this is a question, it's not a statement, but I just want to ask, I mean, he's admitted himself, or has been admitted to a psychiatric hospital.
Yes.
A lot of people will say, gosh, that, you know, is a bit of a cynical move. And the other question is, I don't know if you've seen some of the suggestions that MPs are being warned to watch out for possible entrapment, and suggestions that the Communist Party are looking to try and ensnare MPs in unfavourable situations. I don't know if you've seen either of those, but there's a lot of sort of almost defences for what's been happening.
The Ukraine war
here
gives it a new twist, doesn't it? And there's a feeling of, was he ensnared here? Is this you know, a way of trying to smear the Conservative Party and therefore Boris Johnson at the same time? an investigation, I'm sure, will uncover that. But it doesn't look good, does it?
No, I just feel for his wife, to be honest, in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can talk about entrapment, you can talk about the whole honey traps and all these kinds of things, but ultimately you have to dial back a bit and say, when you're in a position of privilege, then you have to consider everywhere you put a semicolon, never mind what you're going to do in your private life. And as much as you can run to and defend, and I'm sure he's not having a great time now, obviously, which is a kind of very flippant way of discussing it. But, you know, when you are an MP, you're an elected representative, and all the things we know about what your position of privilege and responsibility entails, then you have to look to everything that you do.
Yeah. Angela, let's change tack now. We go to the front page of the Daily Telegraph, and this is about how lockdown has damaged children's education.
Yeah, so this story is all about how babies and toddlers are not developing as well as they should because they've not been able to interact as much with other children. So things like body language, things like facial expressions, language development itself, communication has all been stymied by the inability to be with other their peer group. And it's both shocking and entirely expected. It was such an assault on our connectivity and on our behaviour as human beings. And we forget for children, children, babies and toddlers are remarkable because they learn things that we were asked to learn the things that they learn at that life stage. I said to Eamonn, you've got to learn to walk, speak a language, okay, do this, do that, all within a very short time. As adults, we couldn't do it, so the learning curve is rapid. Yeah. And the idea that the thing that nourishes that is taken away from them, it's going to be part of the whole investigation into what lockdown did and how sort of thoughtful it was to even go down that sort of journey in the first place.
Okay, Angela, thank you very much. Chris, thank you.